Just getting the best of this news day that I can, man. This is a crazy day. Um, Listen, I've been looking and I try not to get in. It's all symbolism, isn't it? Like it all kind of means one thing, like we try to project our own meanings onto it and what it could be for us and our position here in America. But what I do know is that Botham Jean died in a nightmare scenario. That's what we do know. Botham Jean died in a way that we as black men have to be cautious about over obsessing about. You know what I'm saying? Like as a brother in America, I was telling somebody about this not too long ago. We are always thinking about the scenarios in which could lead to our death when it comes to our encounters with police in this country. We are forced to always be considering, like, what if, this turns out and that turns out when you're getting pulled over, when you're driving. She says, Charbrady said that ain't over the sentencing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I might be making this a little bit too prematurely, but I'm sure that somebody can actually come on here and give me some data as it's happening. But I'm telling y'all, man, it's just like one of those things. That's a nightmare scenario. I can't think of any other situation that could be like low key scarier. That could happen in real life. You see what I'm saying? Um, I was talking to a white friend of mine, and she was discussing about how she's in her 60s right now, and I'm like, mortality for a black man is something that we have to contemplate all the time. And in a nightmare scenario like what Botham Jean died in, it's just one of those things where it's like, if a brother ain't safe in his own home, where can he be safe? You see what I'm saying? Hey, how y'all doing? Thank y'all. It ain't over the sentencing. That is very, very true. But let's go over the facts of the case. September 6, 2018 is when the incident goes down. Apparently, she goes to the fourth floor when she apparently lives on the third. Walks into the apartment that was slightly ajar, watching Thursday night football, and he literally stood up and said, "Hey, hey, what's going on?" And she fired two shots. I personally know that I have walked into the wrong apartment. I walked into the wrong apartment in my right. But here's where the prosecution nailed Amber got the wrong apartment. It's that she had the utensils there to actually take care of the wounds and did not do it. That's where they got her. It's not that you walked in. Well, that is that you walked in and shot the wrong person. It's that she had gauze there that was used for combat, and that gauze could have easily been put to good use in making it like a little bit better for him. She could have stopped the bleeding. She could have done a lot more than she actually did to actually make sure that this brother lived, right? She didn't use the tools at her disposal. This is an interesting case because one of the things that the defense tried to say was that this could happen to anybody. We all have been in situations where we have mistaken identity, mistaken place and time. And the prosecution fired back with, she's a cop. She's trained to be observant. She's trained to be observant at a higher level. And I think this is an interesting legal turning point because the truth is that cops should actually be held to a higher standard than civilians, not a lower standard, a fucking higher standard than civilians, right? She actually needs to be held to a higher platform because she's getting paid by tax dollars to serve and protect, right? So that's what ended up going on. She ends up being held responsible for the death of this guy in a very, very, very bad way. And then one of the tricks that the defense tried was called the Castle Doctrine, which is basically Texas's version of stand your own ground. I think Castle Doctrine might be self castle, your home, your abode. You defend your castle and you have the right to defend it with deadly force, right? And then the actual Castle Doctrine to use deadly force in the wrong place, right? So the prosecution fired back was like, so basically, you're going to use Castle Doctrine for the intruder and not the one being intruded upon? Real shit. Real shit. If you are the one intruding, you cannot use that Castle Doctrine. So that's what this does is it sets an interesting legal precedent. Will that legal precedent change everything here in America for black folks? Not official that after being charged with murder, that murder leaves the court in cuffs. Help me out here. Oh, wow. So she didn't leave the court in cuffs? Training. Never mind the police acting as a police officer. Correct. You've got a high level of training. If you misuse a firearm, you get trained in firearm like safety all the time. This is not something that the average person goes through. If you're a cop, you actually should be held to a higher standard. You see what I'm saying? Walking in, like that's just such a nightmare scenario. Like there's a cop that lives in your apartment. They walk in and kill your ass in your own shit. In your own shit. That's crazy. That's Shar says not that she saw. There hasn't been any kind of handcuffs used on Amber Guyger. That's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, this is America. Look what we doing now. No. This is America. Of course. You see what I'm saying? Like, I've tried. America does American shit. Like, if she doesn't actually get the full years that she could possibly get, I'm not going to be sitting up here losing sleep over this shit. Like, of course, you know what I'm saying? Which is sad in a certain way because I pay taxes like everybody else. So I should be able to like expect that there's going to be some level of justice dispensed with my money. So they tried to use castle doctrine. Castle doctrine failed. You can't use castle doctrine when you're in the wrong motherfucking castle. I'm glad that legal precedent has been set. Here's what I think is happening big picture. I think had the optics not been so fucked up, let's say if they were both white, you see what I'm saying? Or perhaps if they were both black. I think that the optics led to the fact that this is a systemic failure on multiple levels. We know that Sandra Bland got killed in Texas. We know a lot of Black Lives Matter cases took place in Texas. We know that riots can happen, and specifically 3 years ago in 2016. You see what I'm saying? Public ire, public unrest is a thing that has to be considered in the optics and the politics of a case. Public unrest is a thing. You know, people always say, you're place for that kind of thing because it sways public opinion, perhaps on a certain level, in a different time, in a different circumstances. And if Botham Jean wasn't the perfect victim, she could not be used. You know, there could have possibility that this could be manslaughter. See what I'm saying? But so many cops have got off. So many miscarriages of justice have happened. So many on by the law enforcement officials that it's kind of like this reminds me of a safety valve in the system. It's like a fail safe, what tends to happen sometimes in the system, especially when you have the threat of public unrest right outside your door, is they'll throw us a fucking bone sometime. They'll throw them this shit. Did O.J. Simpson getting off make this not America? Nah, but they threw us a bone. Right before public unrest happens, and there was a lot of security, there was a lot of stuff going on outside the courtroom. Another incident of throwing us a bone was the re-election of Barack Obama. That's a throwing us a bone moment. You know what I'm saying? Right when you're on the seat of political unrest, right when you're on the verge of political unrest and public outcries and riots, perhaps, something that happened that looked like it validates Black life. And this is what history has shown me that this may in fact be. A cop got actually convicted for actually killing a Black man in his own house. Oh shit, you know what I'm saying? And she used the Becky tears and everything. That's what they call it. You know what I mean? But she said, we'll see if it's a bone after sentencing. Let us see. Facts. I can't argue with that. You know, we always know not to trust things the way that they appear on the surface here in this country. You know what I mean? But let's reiterate the fact. Oh, by the way, like, follow, and share, subscribe, hit that bell. I'm supposed to say that at the beginning of my stuff. I always forget to say that. But let's reiterate the facts of this case. September 6th, Amber Guyger walks into Botham Jean's apartment, was exactly one floor above hers, and doesn't notice the red welcome mat. Right? For example, there was a time where I walked into an apartment that was parallel to mine. And immediately I noticed that something was off, right? Have you ever gone to the wrong car? I don't got that in the back seat. That's not what's on my dashboard, blah, blah, blah. You see what I'm saying? So, as a cop and somebody trained to be observant, she should have seen this isn't my shit. You know what I mean? And she didn't see that. You see what I'm saying? It's crazy, but heartbreaking and wrong. Understood victims. Right, right. Murder by misunderstood victims. It's a thing. You know what I mean? Like people, yeah. Um, it seems like for once, at least there's a legal precedent that humanized the actual victim here, which is Botham Jean and his family. You know what I'm saying? From St. Lucia, so he's a Caribbean island boy. I'm a Caribbean island boy. You know what I'm saying? So I really, the diaspora, that's another thing. But like black people, when they come to this country from other countries, they're subject to the black experience, which is why I'm a Pan Africanist, because my first encounter with racial violence was when an African was killed by a member of the Aryan Nation. So notice that this is not the correct place. She stands up. No, Botham Jean stands up, says, hey, what's going on? He's eating a bowl of ice cream and he's watching football. And she fires two shots. One shot goes over his head. One shot goes through his body, right? God damn it. And so the defense tries to use castle doctrine. Castle doctrine does not work. You cannot use castle doctrine in somebody else's motherfucking castle. That's just how it goes. You can't do that shit. You know what I mean? So now we have a legal precedent for that. You can't use castle doctrine. Also, there's the mistake of facts in castle doctrine. Was the defense tried to use the mistake of facts. I thought it was my house, wasn't actually my house, so I could technically get away with like using this shit. And the prosecution was like, anybody but a cop. Those who are trained to see the details and what's really going on. So, fact is that whether this is them throwing us a bone or not, and we'll see whether this is them throwing us a bone. What is true is that, bone or not, a legal precedent has been set. That's what I care about. A legal precedent has, in fact, been set. A dissident, well, we'll get a legal precedent, true, but at the same token, legal precedent's been set. You know, it's just throwing Black life a bone to actually change, or is this throwing us a bone to keep us from turning up in these streets? That's what needs to be seen right now. And I have no evidence when it comes to how the system treats Black life, but yet still, the survivalist in me, the warrior in me is like, take what you can get. When it comes to like victories, when it comes to dubs, motherfucking take what you can get. See what I'm saying? She said, burning the mother down. Let me tell you something. John F. Kennedy said, right is the voice. No. Dr. King said, right is the voice of the unheard. John F. Kennedy said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. That's John Fitzgerald Kennedy. There is a place for the leverage of burning this motherfucker down. Time and time again, we've seen that perhaps even the gains that were made in the civil rights movement were made because 100 American cities burned. You see what I'm saying? No, she said no bone pitching is healthy. I tell you what, man. What is healthy is setting a legal precedent for a member of the authority to be held accountable. And what this does, you see, what this looks like to me is a series of failures of the system, right? Especially in Texas, because Texas is they still play a Wild West out there in Texas. Like it's a fucking, they be watching too much Walker, Texas Ranger, and they can roundhouse and shoot their way out of any situation like Chuck Norris and shit. Texas is still the Wild Wild West. When the system fails the taxpayer again and again and again and again, part of that system, they were going to have to release pressure. But in doing that, if you look at how the trials would happen during the Jim Crow era, like during the Jim Crow era, that shit was like freaking kangaroo court, man. That didn't have no justice built into it whatsoever. Versus now, look at the difference. Did it take way too goddamn long? Yeah, it did. When been wasted for us trying to get to the point where we could actually be, and to the point we could have some foothold in the law. The point we could have some fucking legal leverage. To the point where we could actually get to the point where there could be something that would look like justice for the Black body. You see what I'm saying? And for the Black taxpayer, if we're being honest. This is without increased police accountability measures, unlikely. Unlikely. But it is something. You know what I'm saying? We'll see what that like, but like all this I'm saying before the damn number of years comes out. So we will see. Like I say all this with the caveat of let's see how many years she get. You feel me? And let's see what this does to change police culture. You know, I always used to say, you know, the system has to start holding its own accountable. And some activists and I here in Colorado began to discuss what those measures would possibly look like. One of the things that I think needs to be in place is police, when they pay out settlements to victims, need to take that settlement money out of their pensions, not out of the taxpayer pot. Like you talk about where you actually start getting some motherfuckers thinking twice about what they did. Go ahead and start taking that payment money, that settlement money out of these police's pensions, out of their retirement. And we'll see some changes in terms of how folks get treated on these streets by these supposed paid public servants. You know what's so interesting is that they called Amber Guyger a service pistol. Like even in the fact that she killed somebody, but she's a law enforcement officer and she has not a gun. She has a service pistol. It's always interesting watching the language, the semantics of how Botham Jean, he's the perfect fucking victim. You can't get a more perfect victim than him. And it's sad because like to live your whole life just to be a perfect victim is a terrible thing, right? Right. Money talks and bullshit walks. I feel you, Miss Franny. Yeah, straight up. Jean was a man of impeccable credentials. He's an accountant. No criminal record. There was no thug life picture of him with gold grill and smoking a blunt that you could put up of Botham Jean. You see what I'm saying? The eventuality of this, to meet the inevitability that there would be a victim like this under any other optics may have actually gotten the manslaughter verdict. I'm going to have to see how this shit plays out. By the way, Theo EJ Wilson, like, follow, share, subscribe. I'm going to be going live between Tuesday and Thursdays. Like Tuesdays and Thursdays are going to be coming on live here. I'm trying to be more consistent. So you see me putting in the effort. So this is what my life be looking like right now. You know what I mean? But yeah, y'all, it makes sense that at least this legal precedent was set. I am under no pretenses that the beast has suddenly changed his heart. You see what I'm saying? I think that this might have been more of a pressure release than an actual policy change forever. You know what I mean? Dallas has shown that it will turn the fuck up. Dallas has a very strong Black Lives Matter contingent. They were all watching this, and they got some beast of a prosecutor on this case to make sure. And he came through with no escape. In fact, it was interesting because when you read the prosecution's case, they flipped the police thing into accountability issue, higher level. That's accountability. You're supposed to be better at that. That's accountability. You feel me? So that's what they was trying to do. And it was just a really, really deep thing, man. I have seen a lot of shit during my time as a Black Lives Matter activist. I've seen a lot of stuff, but this seems to be a slightly new territory. I have seen a lot, you know what I'm saying? I remember where I was when the Ferguson verdict came out. I remember disappointment. You could almost hear the wailing in the streets, you know what I mean? So when you have yourself let down as many times as me as Black men, we do not know how this is going to actually change the system at large, except for systemically, here's what did happen. New legal precedent. That's what we got. So we're going to have to see. I might have to do a part 2 on this on Sunday. We'll have to take a look at that at that point. But in the meantime, my name is Theo EJ Wilson. Like, follow, share this message if you agree. And yeah, we'll see how many years she gets as of right now. That has not been rendered by the system. So we will see in very short order what the actual law will say when it comes down to the handing out of the punishment. Next time, I am Theo EJ Wilson. Holla back, like, follow, subscribe, and yeah, share this message. Holla back. Peace.